The studio lights burned like molten gold against the midnight backdrop of New York City, casting long shadows over an empty stage as a single phone vibrated furiously on a mahogany table. The screen lit up with one line, "Breaking, Melania Trump sues The View." The hum of electric silence filled the air before the chaos erupted. Inside his Austin studio, Joe Rogan stared at the news alert blinking on his screen, his eyebrows knitting together as he muttered, "No way. This is going to change everything." The first 5 seconds felt like a punch of adrenaline to the gut. He could already hear the tremors rolling through social media and cable news. Joe leaned back in his black leather chair, the neon glow of his podcast logo flickering on the walls. He wasn't just reading a headline, he was staring at a powder keg of celebrity, power, and scandal about to blow. The lawsuit had landed like a thunderbolt. Sunny Hostin and the panelists on The View were under a legal microscope, and Joe could feel the weight of the moment, his pulse quickening as he reached for his mic. This wasn't another throwaway story, it was the kind of cultural earthquake he built his platform to dissect. Meanwhile, across the Hudson River, Sunny Hostin sat in her dressing room at ABC's studio, her phone lighting up with messages from friends, publicists, and even old law school classmates. "Are you okay? Have you seen this?" The texts read. Her reflection in the mirror looked back at her, poised, composed, but her hands trembled slightly. Behind the scenes, producers whispered in frantic tones, debating damage control strategies, while security guards checked the corridors for press waiting to ambush. The scent of hairspray and panic filled the air. Joe hit record and began to speak, his voice low and deliberate, weaving the story like a boxer circling his opponent. "This isn't about politics," he said. "This is about power, media, and truth." His listeners leaned in, hanging on his every word. He wasn't taking sides, he was peeling back the curtain. His studio smelled faintly of coffee and iron weights, but in his mind he was standing on a stage before millions, trying to make sense of a storm. As the lawsuit unfolded, the stakes became painfully human. Viewers who once laughed at daytime TV now found themselves gripped by the human cost of a public battle. Melania, usually private and controlled, stepped into the light as her legal team prepared statements filled with phrases like character assassination and malicious intent. Sunny, on the other hand, fought to keep her dignity intact, remembering the long road from courtrooms to television stages, and how quickly public opinion could shift like sand underfoot. Back in Austin, Joe paused mid-podcast, looking straight into the camera. "Everyone watching this," he said softly, "remember that behind every headline is a person, a real person with fears, hopes, and a family." The screen flickered, catching the glint of his eyes. And no lawsuit, no scandal, no viral clip erases that humanity. It was the pivot point, the moment his reaction became more than commentary. It was a reminder of empathy in an age of spectacle. The conflict raged on for days, lawyers sparred, statements were released, and memes flooded Twitter. But slowly, the fever broke. Melania's team and The View reached a private mediation that spared both sides a public trial. Joe's reaction video became one of his most shared clips, not because of outrage but because of the way he had reframed the story, as a cautionary tale about celebrity culture and media frenzy. As the dust settled, Sunny returned to her show with a softer edge, more aware of how words can cut. Melania withdrew back into privacy, her brief foray into the legal battlefield, leaving ripples across the media world. And Joe sat quietly in his studio long after the cameras stopped rolling, sipping from a chipped mug as the neon lights dimmed. He thought about the people caught in the crossfire of fame and controversy and how easy it was for society to forget their humanity. The final shot fades on Joe closing his laptop, the screen going black, his voice lingering like an echo. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to be heard, trying to be seen, trying to be understood. Maybe we can start there. The camera pulls back, revealing the quiet Austin skyline glowing under a silver moon. It's not a story about who won or lost, but about what happens when the noise dies down, when empathy replaces spectacle.